Welcome back to the channel where we are continuing work on Project E39. In this video, we're going to be finishing up all of the remaining fixes. I'm calling this the final fixes video, where we're wrapping up all of the remaining cosmetic and mechanical fixes on this car. A bunch of little jobs that just need to be tied up in a single video. If you're just now joining us for the Project E39 series, be sure to check the link in the description below for the entire Project E39 playlist so you can get caught up to today. So the first thing we're going to be doing today is protecting the ABS module that sits right here, right next to the exhaust header. So a common failure point on E39s, all of them, regardless if they're the 6-cylinder or the 8-cylinder, is the failure of this electronic module on the front of this hydraulic assembly. And repairing or replacing this unit is quite expensive. Issues result from this unit because it's right next to the exhaust manifold. As heat radiates onto this thing, it causes issues with the solder joints inside of the mechanism here. So one of the fixes I'll do here is create a heat shield that helps prevent heat from reaching this in the first place. And the second thing I will do is replace these isolator bushings that the unit mounts to help prevent vibrations from getting to it. Now, the isolators that are here aren't so bad, but they are looking a little compressed, and that's one of the culprits that lead to these failing. Because as vibrations are present in there, it causes those solder joints to crack, which causes it to fail. Of course, heat helps aid that situation along. Let's go over to the bench and see the parts I've got to fix this. So right here are new bushings, or isolator bushings, for the pump itself. You can buy these from BMW, and you need 3 of those. And then over here is a heat shield. Now this one I did build myself because I couldn't find one that was for sale online that I agreed with the design of. So I'm going to tell you the downfalls of all of the heat shields that I've seen out there for sale as I install this, so you can get a good visual of all the limitations of those heat shields versus the one that I've created here. So let's get to installing these things and then do an overview. Alright, so that is all the old bushings out, and they still feel fairly pliable, but the new ones definitely are a little bit taller than these. Alright, so that's the new isolator bushings put in. Not too difficult if you put a little silicone spray on them before inserting them. They're pretty pliable, so they're easy to squish into place. Now let's install the heat shield. Now that this heat shield is installed, let's talk about some of the benefits of this particular design. The first one of which is cosmetic. It looks mildly acceptable compared to a lot of the other monstrosities that I've seen installed in E39 engine bays. It looks minimalist, but functional and clean, and almost like an OEM type design. Now, second, it uses all original mounting points within the engine bay. First 2 are on this body bracket right there. It bolts in there, so it makes it nice and secure, and it has a third mounting location on one of the studs that protrudes from the original heat shield that protects the AC and brake lines. Now, I haven't found a good solution for tightly securing what is basically a sheet metal screw type stud, so I've just used one of the original speed nuts that holds the original heat shield in place, and it seems to be doing a pretty good job. Now, another benefit of this design is that it completely isolates the ABS module from the heat shield. You can see that no part of the ABS module is touching the heat shield. So you have that insulating barrier all around the unit. What appeared to me as being a pretty serious flaw of most of the heat shields I've seen is that they actually mount the heat shield to the ABS unit. So I'm no expert in thermodynamics, but I'm pretty sure that if you mount the heat shield to the item you're trying to protect, you're basically negating the heat shielding capabilities. It's not deflecting any heat because the heat shield's absorbing the heat and then transferring it directly to the pump. So there are threaded inserts all along this ABS pump body, and it makes it really easy to just screw something to it. But again, that's negating the entire purpose of the heat shield if you're mounting it directly to the thing you're trying to protect against heat. So this, I think, is a superior design and fairly minimalist, and it looks pretty good. Now again, I made this myself, so it's not exactly out there on the market, but if there are viewers here that are interested in this particular heat shield, I may be able to put some together and sell them on a as-needed basis. So just send me an email at my usedbikereviews@gmail.com email account, and we can possibly work something out there if you're interested. Anyways, we will do a test of this heat shield later on in the video just to see how well it actually works. But until then, let's move on to the next thing on the list. A potential catastrophic failure point of the M54 family of engines is this black box right here. It's called the DISA valve. And inside of this box is a little flapper valve that effectively changes the length of the intake, which helps improve low-end and top-end engine performance. Now there is a way to bulletproof this mechanism before it fails, but it requires removing it from the engine. All right, with the DISA valve here on the bench, we can talk about why this is a potential catastrophic failure item. So the first symptom of a DISA valve going bad is you get a rattling noise, and that's because there's either play in the hinge pin that controls this valve right here, or the bell crank inside is starting to develop some play. So what you're really hearing is this flapping back and forth. Now where this becomes a catastrophic failure point is when this metal pin starts backing out, because eventually it can back all the way out and fall into the intake tract of the engine and be ingested by one of the cylinder's intake valves. You really don't ever want to get it to that level. So if your M54 engine is making a sort of rattling noise, you need to take this off and at the very least replace it with a new one, or do what we're going to do here and bulletproof this unit. So what I've got here is a repair kit for the DISA valve, and it's made by German Auto Solutions, and they have made a very high quality repair component kit here. So it all starts with this new valve, which is machined from a solid block of aluminum. It also has a aluminum bell crank assembly here and a titanium through pin, and it has some other hardware that allow you to disassemble this unit and reassemble it. It also comes with a new O-ring to seal up against the intake manifold, because this molded in one doesn't really work more than one time. This kit is about $75 or so it's kind of pricey, but if you were to price out a new BMW one of these, which is in the neighborhood of $250 to $300, you'll see where this is a very economical solution, especially since it improves and perfects the original design. So let's get started taking this thing apart. So that right there is the pin that can fall out. All right, so there we are. That DISA valve is now fully rebuilt and functioning smoothly. Let's put it back in the car. The next thing on the list is the fuel filler cap. So when I bought the car, there was a check engine light on. I went in there to scan the codes, and it was a small emissions evap leak, and that's typically down to a leaky gas cap. So if you look in here, you can actually see that this O-ring has lots of hairline dry rot and cracks, so that's likely what caused the issue. So I've got a brand new BMW part for this, but while I'm in here, I'm going to clean up this so it looks brand new. Now we're moving on to the driver's side rear door sill. You can see that the rubber's started to just come apart like that, so we got to replace this thing. I have a brand new one to go in that spot, so let's get to that. So before we put the new one on, we need to make sure we have retrieved these 3 clips. We'll just transfer these over to the new one. All right, pretty simple job. It looks like brand new. Next, we're going to be moving on to something a little strange, the cup holders on this car. So what looks to be a standard cup holder right up here is actually an aftermarket fitting. So I was a little curious why this was installed. So I just kind of pulled it out as just being held in place with some double-sided tape. And that's what I found. So a super common issue with the E39 and probably a lot of other BMWs are these somewhat flimsy original cup holders. They all break. But I'm a stickler for originality, and I would like to replace this with a functional unit. So I've gone and picked up an aftermarket one. It's fairly affordable, and it should fit in that same spot without any issues, and then we'll retain this original look. So let's get to it. It's pretty simple, I think, to pull these out. You just have 2 Phillips head screws that you need to pull out right there and right there. It should be able to maneuver out of there. So I think what I'm fighting with right now is this plastic ledge right here. So the rest of this unit wants to come out, but this is stuck behind this HVAC panel. So I'm gonna see if I can get a pick to kind of bend it down and pop it out of this panel right here. There we are. All right, now continuing on in the interior, we have one last thing to do here, and that is the shift knob. Now I'm not going to replace the shift knob, but if you'll notice the emblem on top here, it's looking like it's starting to delaminate. And it doesn't look very nice considering the rest of the interior looks brand new. So I'm going to replace this. Now you'd think I'd just kind of pry up along the edges and it would pop off. And it's not quite that easy. This is stuck down pretty well. And if you tried to pry along this seam, you would damage this shift knob, and this is impossible to replace. They don't make this anymore. But I have a brand new emblem from BMW right here, and you can really see the difference. This is this nice deep black look, where that just was like an old sticker. So with that replaced, it'll look very nice. But first job is getting this out of there. I think the approach that I'm going to do is drill a hole through the middle of this, because this is mostly hollow, at least hollow enough to drill a hole and then get a screwdriver in there and pry it up like that. So the only thing that risks getting damaged is the emblem itself. Let's give it a shot. right, so that came out pretty easily, actually. Get one shot at putting this down. That looks awesome. And moving right along, the next thing that needs to be taken care of are a few dents in the body that need to be pulled out. They're fairly minor, but the car is otherwise in perfect condition. These are just holding it back that little bit. So the first one here is on the hood, and it's just gonna be hard to see these, I'm sure, on the camera, but it is right here. There's a little bit of a crease. Not sure how that one would have happened, but it's almost like it came up from underneath the hood. So there's that. And then over here on the quarter panel, it's a bit of a crease right here. This is probably the worst one on the car. And it doesn't look very nice when you hit it in just the right light. And then the last one is over here. And this one definitely was a parking lot blunder, no doubt. Someone's door smacked right here and basically sent a crease all the way down it. And that is definitely going to be worth taking out. It's very hard to capture these dents on camera, especially in this color. So removing dents isn't something I have any experience with. It requires tools that honestly I just don't want to go out and get. And this car is too nice to be cutting my teeth on dent pulling anyways. So I'm going to be taking this to a specialist and having them done properly, and I'm excited to see the end result. Next on the list is the window tinting on the driver's door. So this car has all the windows tinted in sort of this lighter tint. I'm not even sure what percentage of that tint is, but as you can see on this window, it's peeled off here in the corner, and over here there are some scratches in it. And this is another job that I'm going to outsource. I'm not familiar with how to remove window tinting or installing it. And like the dent pulling, this isn't a car I want to cut my teeth on learning how to do that. So I'm going to send this off to a specialist. And as promised, here is a little check on that heat shield and how it's doing. I've got my infrared temp gun right here. I just went out and drove the car, got it on the highway, drove around town a little bit, made sure it was definitely up to operating temperature. So let's take a temperature of the heat shield. Heat shield says about 390 degrees, around 400 degrees, as you can see right there. So pretty darn hot, again, because it's protecting against the exhaust headers right there. And one benefit of this design that I didn't mention previously is that it reaches all the way down past the exhaust headers, so it doesn't allow for the heat to go underneath the heat shield and trickle up and get to the unit right there. I've noticed a lot of the heat shields I've seen online stop about right here, and you can get all that heat that is from the headers. It goes underneath and gets the unit from the bottom side. Looking at the unit itself, according to that reading, it's about 120 to 150 degrees. It's a little hard to get a reading right there. Maybe it looks like right around 150 degrees or so. And then the plastic part is about 100 degrees. So I mean, you're talking about a temperature differential of at least 300 degrees. So that's pretty significant. I mean, it's to the point where you can't really put your hand on that at all. But on this, it's cool to the touch. So I think that's a testament to that design. It works, and it should make this ABS unit last a very long time. All right, and flash forward, and the dents are gone, and the window tint is replaced. You can see right here, well, actually you can't see, it's straight as an arrow now. No dent. You'd never know that there was a dent there before. Same thing with down here. Completely straight across, no more door strike area. I can't believe they were able to pull that out so well. And then in the hood, there's a little bit of a rise right here, and it's just gone. Like nothing happened. Definitely worth taking this to a specialist, having those dents removed. It was done in like a few hours. It was about $85 a dent, but that is totally worth it when you're talking about an expert art like removing dents from metal bodywork. I mean, this is not just something you can cut your teeth on real fast. It takes years of experience to get results like this. So very happy with that result. And then of course, the window tint. being replaced. Looks awesome. So that was it. That was the last of the remaining final fixes. And what a car we are left with. So that wraps it up for this video, and basically wraps it up for Project E39. I didn't think we'd be saying it so soon, but yeah, that's everything. In the next video, we'll go over all of the costs incurred in this project, and then we'll take it out for a spin. Until then, we'll see you all again next time.